Okay, now we're going to look at the menu options of the two cameras. I've already hit the menu button on both of them, and I'm going to go through the functions on these. Alright, so going and looking at exposure, both cameras have 7 options here, starting with bracketing, auto cancel. Well, actually, let me go back to the first item here. So the first item is exposure level increments, and the first item here is also exposure level increments, half stop or third stop. Next item is the same as well, which is ISO adjustments, half stop, or rather third stop or one stop. Third item is ISO expansion, on or off. Fourth item is bracketing auto cancel, yes or no. Fifth item is bracketing sequence. Do you want to start off with the darkest image, or do you want to start off with the mid-level image, the correct exposure, if you will, and then do the other two? Next item is safety shift, enabled or disabled. And then the final item on here is flash sync, automatic, or 2 other options. So far, the cameras are identical in that regard. Now, if we go back and go to the, actually we want to go to image, which is the second set of functions. We have 3 on both cameras again, starting with the long exposure noise reduction, followed by the high ISO noise reduction amount, and then the highlight tone priority. So far, again, the same on both cameras. Next item is autofocus drive, function 3. Here we have 5 options on the 60D, while we have 13 options of configurability on the 7D. So on the 60D, we start with autofocus drive lens. So continue focusing if you can't find focus, or stop, followed by configuration of a couple of the buttons, whether we have autofocus point selection or auto selection method. Then going to autofocus superimpose display, and then autofocus beam assist, and finally mirror lockup. On the 7D, with lots more options, we start off with the servo tracking speed sensitivity. We go to the priority, whether it's autofocus or tracking or drive speed. Then we go to the servo tracking method, continuous or main point only. And then we get to what was the first option on the 60D, which is the 4th one on the 7D, which is what do you do if the lens can't find focus. Then we have a micro adjustment by lens or by the same amount. Then we have the autofocus type selector. There are 6, or I guess 5 different types of autofocus modes that can be selected to be on or off. Then we have a manual point selector. Do you want to stop at the edges or be continuous? The autofocus illumination display. And then we have the show all autofocus points or not, and showing them all is actually kind of annoying. I did that initially. And then we have the focus display in servo or manual. Finally, we get to beam assist. And then we have a setting for orientation linked autofocus point. So if you rotate the camera and go from portrait to landscape, it can actually automatically change which of the autofocus it uses. And then finally we finish up with mirror lockup, just like on the other camera. So you can see there's a difference. 5 functions on there, 13 on the 7D, so 5 on the 60D. Going back out to menu, and going to the 4th type function, display. And these are really the button settings for the camera. So here we have 5 on the 60D and 4 on the 7D. However, On the 7D, there are a lot more buttons that are programmable. So you can actually select the one of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different buttons that can be programmed or switches. On the 60D, there's actually only 5 buttons that are programmable. So 3 on top and then 2 on the sides. So less programmability there, definitely. Now if we look at some of the other options here, okay, so that's another button. Operation direction normal or reverse. That's I believe also one of the functions on here. Yep, normal or reverse. Then image verification data on or off. Now here you do have a selection of 3 different focusing screens, which you do not on the 7D. So that's an interesting thing that the 60D has that, 7D does not. Although I guess the 7D uses a prism, so that's probably why. So in effect, you've got the buttons split into 2 groups here. They're all in one group here, which would make the number of functions in each group the same. All right, moving on to the next menu. We've got battery info on both, information, camera user settings, copyright info, all that good stuff, all the same on both cameras. Going over to the next function. LCD brightness adjustment. Now we have manual on the 60D, but we also have an automatic mode on the 7D, or a manual mode. Date, language, video, sensor cleaning. All the rest of the functions are the same on both. Grid display is on here. I believe grid display is actually on a different screen than the 60D versus the 7D. Power off time limit, auto rotate on both cameras. Format, and then file numbering, which is going to be the same on both cameras. Going into the play settings, we actually have a few more items now on the 60D versus the 7D. On the, we've got highlight alert enabled, autofocus display enabled, same on that one. Histogram, brightness, yep, same. Here we can also rate the items, the images, and we can also control over HDMI, enable or disable that. Going to the next screen, again, the 60D has a lot more items than the 7D. The 7D, all you can really do here is protect images, rotate, erase, or print. On the 60D, we have protect, rotate, erase, print, and then we also have creative filters, which lets you tweak the images in camera. You can also resize images in camera, and there's also raw image processing in camera as well. And if you go to raw image processing here, which is, well, I guess we don't have any images, so we can't do it. But that's not available on the 7D at all. Now going into the video and camera mode. We've got live view enabled on the 60D. We've got we've got a live view switch on here, so really there's nothing to enable, it's always on. We also have the autofocus and quick mode on both cameras. So like the grid display on both cameras, the aspect ratio. Actually, that's only available on the 60D. The movie record size is set here on the 7D. Sound recording on or off, and then silent shooting on or off, or whatever mode. Here we have also exposure simulation to enabled, and the movie recording size is on a different screen on the 60D. Next item, delete dust data and auto ISO on the 60D, and one-touch raw JPEG on the 7D. So difference between that function screen as well. Next screen over. We have exposure compensation on both of them, auto lighting optimizer on both of them, white balance on both of them, picture style on both of them, white balance, I already said, white balance shift, that's on both of them, and color space on both. So essentially the same information on that screen as well. And the final screen, We have quality, we have red eye reduction. We can actually turn off the beep on both cameras as well. Turn on or off whether the shutter releases without a card in. Peripheral illumination correction on both of them, and then flash control on both of them. Now what you didn't see on this camera is the movie mode, and when we come back in the next segment I'll show you that.